I'm delighted that this season of Crazy Sexy Food is sponsored by premium appliance manufacturer Miele. Over the last few years, I have got close to this incredible brand through Tom Kerridge's Pub in the Park festival, where I've had the pleasure to watch and eat dishes prepared by some of the UK's finest chefs using Miele. I was also invited to a special event by the brand at the fabulous S10 Park, which features Miele throughout, with lunch cooked by one of the UK's most exciting and innovative restaurateurs, Tommy Banks. If you are on a kitchen journey, I would highly recommend a visit to one of its experience centres, where you will not only receive bespoke advice, but can also join one of the many courses to experience its appliances firsthand, including getting to enjoy lots of delicious food. Excitingly, it's opening a new Mayfair store, which is just opposite the Ritz, a great way to spend an afternoon. This year is an exciting milestone for the family-owned company, who will be celebrating its 125th anniversary. And while Miele continues to innovate, it stays true to its motto, Immer besser, which means forever better. The majority of its products are put through tough durability tests during the development phase to simulate 20 years' use. For ovens, this includes opening and closing the door 24,000 times. To celebrate the partnership, Miele is kindly giving my listeners 10% off its fabulous appliances on miele.co.uk or through its experience centres until September with the code CrazyMiele. I'm super excited to be joined this week by author, presenter and advocate Candice Brathwaite. I feel like she's so much more than this, but we're going to start there as we delve into the incredible work she's put her energy into over the last decade. We're here in room 215 at the Four Seasons Hotel, Park Lane, about to order room service. I'm 9 months pregnant, and Candice has built a career on speaking up about motherhood, particularly black mothers and the lack of diversity out there. So I couldn't be in better company if I tried. I feel like this may become a therapy session. Who knows? Candice, welcome to Crazy Sexy Food.
I know, this is so plush. This bed, the vibes.
You can buy it. If you want it, we'll sort you out with a deal.
Crazy.
It is comfortable. I feel like we could just chill here all day.
Yeah.
We've got room service coming.
I'm so excited.
I always look after my guests. Don't worry. You're in good hands. I'm so excited. First of all, this is the first time we've met each other, but I've been wanting to meet you for a while just because there's certain things that you really sort of talk about and put a lot of energy into that a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that in a minute. But firstly, how have you been?
I've been okay. And I'm learning to not just do that British thing where it's like, yeah, everything's fine. No, I've been okay. I had a pretty rough last quarter. So that would be 2023 in my mind now. So that Christmas period was really hard. I had to change up my business structure a bit. And that was difficult given that I had the same structure for 6 years, almost 7 years. And I'm now coming out the end of that. Like all the dust is starting to settle and I'm like, okay, we made it. Okay.
As I said in the intro, you sort of have a few different prongs to the business.
Yeah.
And as I said, we're going to get into a lot of that in a minute. But two exciting things. One has happened, one is happening.
Yeah.
You've just headlined the Palladium.
I know.
What the hell?
What? So what the hell? So I had a really popular podcast called Closet Confessions that myself and co-host filmed in my actual walk-in closet. We started that podcast just for bants.
This is when a good story starts.
There was no...
You were just doing it.
We were like, why not? Like, we get on, we chat a lot of rubbish off mic, turn the mics on, let's see what will happen. In less than a year, we amassed 3 million downloads.
Unbelievable.
Like, it just blew up. Like, and no one was expecting that. So the Palladium, you know, one of those things where you didn't order it, but you'll eat it.
I mean, that is so on brand with me. I mean, that's actually the story of my life.
I didn't order that, but I will take it off your plate.
But I'll have a little taste.
Palladium, that was never... Because we're not musicians, I'm not a comedian, so the Palladium wasn't even something in my vortex. Like, I wasn't thinking about that. And then when the opportunity came up, we were like, hell yeah. More to the point, because the bulk of our audience were younger black women who, like me, had walked past the Palladium thousands of times. I've walked that strip thousands of times, drunk early in the morning, doing a retail job I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And I just never thought that place was for me. So to rock up that night and see these two gorgeous black faces just plastered all over that iconic build, it was such a moment. Yeah.
For any of the non-3 million that downloaded that podcast, just kind of give us like the top line of what it was about and what you were talking about.
So the premise was myself and Sorrel would confess something each week, and then we'd take a listener confession or dilemma.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can be really broad. There was always jokes and laughs and kikis. And then some confessions were horrendous, like just earth-shatteringly horrendous. And not even in like a joke way, just like, you've emailed the wrong people. Like,
oh, wow.
You might want to email the police, a psychiatrist, like, girl, this is the wrong inbox. And you know, it just ended up being really holistic and really helpful. I met a woman who waited at the stage door at the Palladium who said it got her through chemo for stage 4 breast cancer.
Wow.
So it just became a support system for loads of people.
I wonder, particularly with the premise of closet confessions, how far do you take it? Like, how far are you happy to take it? Because these are confessions, so you're exposing yourself, you're taking layers away that not a lot of people would maybe be comfortable doing.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
Do you know what? That's one of the reasons why we ended the podcast. The line was getting murky. And as someone who came from very little means in a community where I always thought to be financially affluent and build generational wealth, I had to be famous. Fame is the last desire on my list. I hate people being in my business. I hate people thinking that I owe them more information than I'm willing to give. And a podcast like Closet Confessions just makes it so murky. And there were many times we uploaded an episode and ripped it down in half an hour because we were listening back and we were like, no. Even though we'd listened back, just now understanding that 50,000 people are going to hear this week, we're like, no, we've cut it too close to the quit. And I think the podcast taught me what I'm not willing to give up for clicks and likes and data and downloads.
Do you know how refreshing that is?
Like, I'm not willing to give it up.
No, but do you know what? I just feel like, you know, especially with how you've also based your following, you know, you've got an amazing following on social, and you sort of look at this world we're living in. And again, you know, we'll start talking about this in a minute about raising children in this world. Where is the line between doing what I want to do, wanting to achieve those ambitions and those desires, but still keeping a lot of it back?
For me, you know, for me.
But I feel like the problem, and I do have a love-hate relationship with social media, but it gives people this like unsolicited position where they think that we owe them something.
And why I don't understand it is because I'm a huge consumer of social media and certain people in the internet. I've never felt that way.
Yeah.
So I just don't get it, because I've never, someone I could have followed for years. There is someone I followed for years who maybe 2 years ago just went black. She just deleted everything and she's not present anymore. So when she popped into my mind, I went and did my Googles, and then I end up on those terrible forums anyway. And then people are like, where the F is she? How could she just go black and not give us an explanation? Who the F does she? And I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, delete, control, backspace. Like, I just wanted to know if she's okay. You know, like when someone runs into your brain, like, but the way that people were like commenting on her decision to get rid of her digital footprint was so scary.
It's a minefield.
Yeah.
It's a minefield. And I feel like it's a conversation that sort of doesn't really have firm answers yet.
And I think I'm 36, and I think we are the first generation to reach those answers. Like the dial-up era, we were there when broadband first got plugged in. And I'm seeing so many of my age mates now delete their Instagrams. I'm seeing so many people go, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've done this for 10, 15 years. I don't want to do it anymore. So I think we are starting to see the fallout of being chronically online.
I have to say, I quite like the sound of that. Don't get me wrong. I think especially in like the businesses that we're in, right? It plays its part, but I quite like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and the aim is by 40, that should someone type my name into a social media app and they can't find me, have a stiff drink because I've made it. Exactly. It's like a life goal Literally. For you to not be, to be able to, because I'm also starting to understand that not having a digital footprint is an expensive luxury.
Yeah.
It's a luxury to not have to be plugged in. It's a luxury to not have a social account. Do you know how well you must be doing in other areas of your life to not be dependent on the way we now all communicate?
Yeah.
That is huge.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I want it, but I'm not there yet. And so I don't judge people that are still online, but I can just see how slowly but surely we're all going, that was a bit much, innit? Yeah. If I ever did have another kid, you'd never see them on the internet.
Yeah. That's interesting.
You would never,
really?
ever see them. And I now make that decision, of course, retrospectively, having come into my career with blogging about motherhood and, of course, my children being very present, but now seeing the fallout and the damage of having young kids so present on the internet so early. No. No. When you're 18 and you want to make a decision about creating certain accounts, go for it. But if I had another kid, you'd get a fingernail at best.
The other thing we have to talk about, which is coming up in a few months, is your 4th book.
That is crazy.
Tell us about it. I'm so excited for this.
Manifesto is coming. Manifesto, unlock the life you deserve.
Yes.
So I would say for the last half decade, I've been in like my manifesting bag. And I know it sounds saccharine and sappy to so many people, but it really has been the thing that has allowed me first mentally to turn my life around, then to see the physical manifestation of all that mental work. My issue was, though, is as a Black woman, all manifesting material was being taught to me by someone who physically shows up in the world with more privilege.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yes, beautiful white girl, tell me how I can manifest this dream house.
Yep.
Yes, smart white man, tell me how. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I was like, what does this conversation look like? What does manifesting feel like when you're starting on the back foot? When you are born into a space that isn't going to tell you you're the best or you're the shit or we've got your back? I'm like, is anyone in the room noticing that there's an imbalance in this conversation? What does manifesting look like for the Black, the poor, the underprivileged, the disabled? And that's what Manifesto tries to have a crack at, because I'm not going to say I'm the best. But I'm like, no, switching my brain to thinking I'm the shit was so hard, because I was raised in a world where I was underrepresented on TV. I'm always like the ghetto baby mama or the one stealing something in a TV show. I'm now in a space where my likeness is being gunned down by the police for no reason. I wasn't born into a world that says, we've got you, honey, you know? Yep. And what does manifesting look like for someone like me? So that's what Manifesto is about.
And this comes out in
September.
Okay.
And everyone can pre-order now. It comes out in September. It's also, weirdly, the first book of mine that will have also a book tour, and I'm really excited about that. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this conversation will lead myself and my audience.
I'm so glad you're the one doing it. But also, I can't believe it's taken so long.
By the time my first book, I'm Not Your Baby Mother, came out, which was in May 2020, it was the first book to enter the British Library as a book about Black motherhood by a Black British woman. Ever.
Wow.
Ever.
I did not know that.
Nor did I, till I got the feedback. I was like,
wow.
Oh shit.
Okay.
It's not even become a purposeful thing. It's just like, for some reason, I'm being allowed to be the first in many spaces. And whilst that's also cool, there is like a crushing pressure that comes with that. It's like, I don't always want to be the first, because the first takes a lot of beatings too. Like, it's not all good times. I just don't know why I keep showing up in markets where these things haven't been said or done.
And sort of back to your comment about being this sort of the first one to do it in that black market. What was it like dealing with the response, the noise, when you decided to change your life around?
Oh, it was horrendous. Because what then happens is you go from pet to threat. You go from being in this space where everyone's like, because they think you're only going to stay here in this low vibrational space. Yeah, love you, babes. Mwah, 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 mwah. Then you start to want more for yourself. And it's like, aye, who the fuck does she think she... Do you know what I mean? You've become a threat. And I would say the first half of my career was horrendous. Such backstabbing, and some of this backstabbing was really public. I remember like a huge story breaking and my childminder being like, you're on the 4th page of the Sun. I was like, girl, I know. And I did not want anything to do with that, but my name is embroiled in a massive trolling story. So now here we are. Do you know what I mean? And it's like having to face all of that. And I would say I've had to like really dig my heels in about living my best life publicly. Now, the reason it has to be done publicly by a woman that looks like me is so that women that look like me get to see it.
Yeah.
We don't get to... Certain shows are not going to promote a woman like me living well. So when I get the opportunity to do the thing, to hit the career goal, to buy the dream bag, although it's becoming much less about material and more about experience, I'm like, I have to share this. Even in the face of, oh, I can't stand her, why won't she F off? I'm like, there's one woman who looks like me who's going to be like, okay, she got that. I got this kind of vibe.
Does that come with pressure as well?
Not anymore. Before, yes, because I thought I owed that.
Right.
Now it's like, might share, might not.
Fine.
I'm very like, you know, not in the mood today. There's no pressure anymore. And I feel like my true audience is nowhere to find me. It's like, even if you've not seen me on socials for a week, go and buy a book. Like, I'm always somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like your balance. I've got to bring it to the food for a bit, but we're going to come back because there's lots we need to get into. So, born and raised South London.
Yeah.
Right. I want you to paint the picture. I want to know what life was like growing up, but I want you to talk about the food as well. What was on the table? Who was cooking? Who was round the table? Go for it.
Life was interesting. So I was raised by my maternal grandfather. So that's my mother's dad. He was violently mugged a couple of months before I was born and left blind in one eye. So when my mum wanted to go back to work, by then my mum and dad had split up. He was already essentially a stay-at-home husband because he was written off work for life. So now my nan goes out to pay the mortgage. I remember her leaving the house every day at like 4:45 a.m. My bedroom was near the front garden. So you'd hear the gate go. She's gone off to work. Granddad's doing everything. He's cooking all the meals. One of his jobs when he came from Barbados to the UK, he was a chef at the Savoy. So he can really put it down.
Okay.
And so we are having roast lambs, but then in West Indian culture, we have something called Saturday soup.
Yeah.
You have a certain soup on a Saturday, which, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A chicken soup with corn in it. There is a national heritage dish of Barbados called cuckoo. I don't actually know what cuckoo is. I can't stand it. I remember we used to have cuckoo with like a slab of flying fish on the top. Love flying fish. So I just rip the flying fish off and eat that. My nan was a tremendous baker. Such a tremendous baker that on weekends she would supply birthdays and weddings.
Wow.
So like,
there's a lot going on here.
I'm like eating the flying fish and then I'm being asked to taste this batter. And then in the garage, she kept a tub of like Christmas cake mix that every month she would just top up with rum. So like she goes to the garage first of the month every month, 2 bottles of rum, give it a shake, seal it. Next month, so by Christmas,
she was feeding that.
I am like dizzy as a 5-year-old of this Christmas cake. Who was around the table? Me, my nan, my mum. My sister wasn't born until 7 years later, and that's when I left my grandparents' home. But I think from a food perspective, it was always enriching. It was always like, you know, such different recipes, very British, but also very Caribbean and very like heritage based. Yeah, really good food actually.
So aside from sort of the cuckoo and the flying fish, what other dishes would you say take you back to your childhood?
Oh my gosh, like curry goat and rice and peas.
Okay.
So my mother is from Barbados, my dad's from Jamaica.
Okay.
Like in the Caribbean, that's like Romeo and Juliet, boy.
Yeah.
Back then, no one was happy about that. Like, oh, you're dating a small island girl. Oh, why would you date a man from Jamaica? Like, ew. And so I was like caught between really coolly these two worlds, because then I'll go to my dad's at the weekend, and when I was much younger, my Jamaican grandparents still lived in this country, and I remember my grandma, Princess Louise, her name was, not even making that up.
Oh my God, what a name.
Princess Louise, but she'd always have a fag hanging out of her mouth, my God. So she'd be like whipping up this curry goat with a B&H just lingering.
I love it. I love it.
The corner of my mouth, like. And yeah, and so like, having the Jamaican vibes as well, and then understanding the differences, the interconnection, but the differences in Caribbean heritage food, big deal. But then also, my dad hated cooking. So like when my grandparents were in the picture, oh, do you fancy fish and chips? Yeah, go on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So there was actually quite a few like different dynamics going on there.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And have you been to both to Jamaica and Barbados?
Oh my gosh, I'm off to Jamaica next week.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she is.
And I typically like to go to Barbados once a year. I would say out of both islands, I have a more maternal, literally, connection to Barbados, just because the first time I went there, apparently I was 3 months old. Like my nan just sorted my passport, and it's where I spent many summers and many half terms. So it's the island I will go to by myself and just know the space back and front and feel safest. Whereas I've only been to Jamaica a handful of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been in a while, but I have been to Jamaica a few times.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I love it.
I'm so excited.
I love it out
I'm
there.
so excited.
Because I also just love the food as well.
Love do you know what? The food, the culture, the people, the conversation you experience when you're off the beaten track. So like not doing a touristy thing. When you stumble across a shack and like a Rasta man owns it. Like
some of the best food I've had in my life.
Come on.
Because I was raised in Ladbroke Grove. So,
no, you know.
So, you know, I'm kind of like, I get it. I know what I'm dealing with.
You know.
So kind of back to this career.
Yeah.
You know, what I really want to talk about, you know, is this significant impact that you've actually made on a lot of conversations around motherhood, particularly diversity in motherhood and sort of what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a Black mother at that. I know you've kind of touched on it, but where did the drive come from to really push this conversation?
The drive came from being bullied. I will say it plainly. I was really bullied in the parenting industry. And it was almost like, who is this loud, brash little Black girl from South London who's come to upset the apple cart? That was the vibe from all the yummy mummies of that moment. She's embarrassing us.
Wow.
She's making us feel as though, you know, we have to go and do some learning. This was in a pre-2020 time, though. What no one could predict nor want to predict is my book came out 2 days after George Floyd was murdered.
I was just going to say.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we were on lockdown.
Yeah.
The zeitgeist, you can't make that up. So everyone's at home now wanting to have a conversation about how to unlearn racism and how to be more diverse. And in sweeps, I'm Not Your Baby Mother. Rewinding before the release of that book, though, the only reason I wrote I'm Not Your Baby Mother is because it was the only theme a publishing house would give me a deal on.
Wow. Okay.
There were many proposals before I'm Not Your Baby Mother, and it was like, you're a brilliant writer, but your social media following's too small.
No, please.
Yeah, babe.
No.
Babe, sometimes when you get the mic, you got to tell the truth. Your social media following.
See, this is where this is where I have to unsubscribe from modern life.
Your social
so you're judging. This is it. It's like judging someone's talent, someone's potential.
It all boils down to those numbers. Until you get to a certain point in your career, it all boils down to those numbers.
Can you say what some of the book like proposals were about?
Yeah, one of them was my second book, Sister, which was an essay, an essay compilation of things that I'd learned that I wanted younger black girls to not learn the hard way. But they were like, yeah, you don't have a big enough audience for that. No one's going to want to hear that from you. So I'm Not Your Baby Mother was written in the space of 3 months in just pure rage. It was just like, oh, you want a book about motherhood, do you? Okay, sweetheart, I've got something for you. You've never read anything like this. I mean, one of the chapters in there is called Young, Gifted and Stabbed. And it recounts how when I realised RJ was a boy, we just left London. Because I'd been keeping an eye on the data around knife crime and knife culture in the city. And we were living in Croydon at the time, which is now, I think, I'm sorry for the way I'm going to describe it, I now think that's the stabbing capital of the city. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this here. That there is no book I could have reached for in the land that would have enabled me to think that through or have that conversation. Like, what does it mean to have a black son in the city? What does that, who is going to tell me the truth? Like, who understands my fear that I can do everything by the book and my 12-year-old might not make it home alive? Who's going to have that conversation with me? So I'm Not Your Baby Mother ended up just being such heavy, hard-hitting material for people. And I think after having to suffer hundreds of parenting books by bloggers who just got a deal because their numbers were huge, everyone was like, oh shit, you know? So yeah,
I have so much to say about these numbers and people getting exposure and whatnot.
babe.
I know, it's just it's like the focus has just, the dial has just.
Where's the talent? Is the talent in the room with us? Where's the talent, guys? Did it RSVP?
Literally everyone in this room
Did
right
it
now are like
RSVP?
nodding their heads.
Where's the talent? Do you know what I mean?
No, I
and
know.
also, where is the commitment to fostering talent? That's a question I want to have. Like, you know, back in the day before social was everything, a young plucky star, someone would see them, a writing star, a songstress, and be like, we are going to dedicate the next 3 years to giving you the space we believe you deserve because of your... Where is that? No one wants to support talent anymore.
No.
And it pisses me off because I'm like, we're losing the recipes by the day. And we're just left with, and I love them because they entertain me, we're just left with a rotation of TikTokers.
Thank you. No, but preach, because but it's in every industry. It's like, I could say it's in like the food industry. It's like, I'm not saying that you need to be a trained chef to come on and go on TV and show me how to cook. But then you're getting advice, you're getting like nutritional advice from 18-year-olds.
From someone that's just
who were
viral.
really lucky, who were really lucky with their following. And I'm watching what? You show me how to make me a cookie.
And also,
like,
most of them, guess what? They're not lucky with their following. They just look like what the algorithm wants to promote. So it's not even luck. It's just like, you're a dashing 18-year-old white lad. So the algorithm's going more. So you get virality. And then you get to go on this cookie. I'm just like...
No, honestly, I feel it. Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but we're in a pivotal point. But I feel like the food needs to join us.
I'm so hungry.
So the food has arrived. I'm very excited by this because she has ordered. The pace of modern life can make us feel like we're always on the go. But Odyssey believes that slow food is the necessary antidote to the restlessness of it all. It brings us together, feeds conversation, creates new traditions, new rituals, and new stories. This is very much the ethos of Crazy Sexy Food, feeding conversations through food, and good food at that. I'm so happy to be partnering with Odyssey on this season of the podcast. They've been scouring Greece and further afield for the finest food producers since 1991, bringing the highest quality flavours that the Mediterranean has to offer. Their range is carefully curated to include hand-selected, traditionally cured olives, award-winning honey from lovingly tended bees, and premium quality oils sourced from only the most acclaimed regional producers. Food is a way to get back in touch with the things that matter most and connect on new and deeper levels. And so the lovely people at Odyssey are offering Crazy Sexy Food listeners 15% off at odyssey.com using the code CSF15. Do you want to talk about what you have ordered? I mean, you're living your best life. I might have just met you, but I know I haven't seen you. This is the happiest I've ever seen you in your life. You are
Do you know what's so crazy? Right? Let's go back to the part where you were like, oh, you give other people a menu and they're just like, oh, just have some fruit. See me? I'm South London coded. You're lucky I didn't order everything off that motherfucker.
As she devours her lobster linguine.
So, guys, I ordered a lobster linguine, some French toast, and there's some grapefruit, but that's off camera. And this is just... Pasta is the way to my... Oh,
always.
Honestly.
Always. Oh. I've got a club sandwich. A lot of sort of people that have listened to this before know how much I love a club sandwich, but I also have another French toast waiting as well. I've got truffle fries because I can. And we've also got a couple
of DCs.
What is happening right now? This is why I talk about food. This is why I talk about food. Because what else are you going to talk about?
This is crazy. Okay.
So we had to eat.
Oh, that was
we had to eat. Are you feeling satisfied?
Loved it. That was delicious.
We do have in front of us the French toast. Oh. We're just going to let that sit for a bit because we literally inhaled.
Literally, I can feel it here.
Like I can feel it. I mean, there might be a few burps and hiccups, but I mean, at this point, I don't even care. But let's get back into it. There was something that you mentioned a minute ago that actually I'm quite fascinated by. You sort of had all these proposals. You're going to these publishing companies. They're saying no to this, that, whatever. You don't have a following for that. But you're wanting to talk about essentially Black motherhood.
Yeah.
This was before everything happened with George Floyd. We're back in 2020. We're in lockdown. In a sort of weird way, you're kind of ahead of yourself with the conversation. So what was it that made them say yes to that?
I don't quite know, because what actually happened is even this proposal got turned down a couple of times, and then I went public on Instagram saying, I'm going to self-publish.
Okay.
I need help with like crowdfunding. Everyone was behind me. And then a woman who used to go to the same run club as me, who was an editor at the time, was like, don't do that. I think this is something my boss would love to see. And it ended up that her boss was high up at an imprint called Quercus at Hachette. And that's who ended up publishing I'm Not Your Baby Mother. What I appreciate about, as ever, the way my life is, like I come through the back door, is it gave me a lot of ownership that I didn't know first-time authors didn't have. So I was like, the title has to be this, the cover has to look like this. Unbeknownst to me, you don't get those rights as a first-time author. You don't have final say over your cover art, and you don't have final say over your title. It doesn't happen. Once you agree to that advance, part of the contract is the publisher has the final say in those. The thing is, I'd waited so long for my moment and been dicked about so much that I was like, no. Because if you don't like what I want, I'll still just self-publish. So they were like, we're going to keep the title, we're going to sign off on the cover. I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm with a publishing house who gets it, that are going to like weather the storm, quote unquote, because again, the front cover looks so appealing and like bubblegum pop, but it's really heavy hitting material. We did have a few hiccups with my first editor, who left things in the margins like, surely all Africans say that. So I had to do a quick fire her moment. But that's another thing that I learned. It's like, okay, you perhaps can get Black authors through the door. Do you have the copy editors? Do you have the editors to support the work that you're trying to buy? She was like a 68-year-old woman who taught violin on the weekends. I was like, girl, this is not for you. Yeah. So then they had to hire in an editor who was a younger Black woman who just knew what the vibe and the conversation was. And I'm so happy with how it panned out. But literally, I submitted that book first quarter 2019. That's just how far ahead books work. Do you know what I mean? So for 2020 to then do what, oh wow, to be a first-time author being told you can't go to a bookstore, you can't have a book tour, like it was insane.
It is very interesting when, with hindsight, and you look back and you see sort of the timeline of it all. I think something within the book that is important to talk about is, you know, you've been quite open about the quite traumatic experience that you had in the aftermath of giving birth to your daughter. And the other parts of the book that you shed light on, you know, is the lack of awareness of what it means to be a Black mother, of the stats that Black British mothers, I don't know if this has changed now, but at the time were 5 times more likely to die in childbirth than white mothers. Off the back of sort of what you had gone through personally, what was that process like writing it? Was it cathartic at any point for you?
It was really cathartic. It was also anger inducing though, because I think in order to just be a half decent mum to Esme, I had shoved so much of it away, and to like unearth that trauma in the hopes that it shows Black women the red flags that could appear when they're going to give birth or the postpartum period. I was like, okay, that's the only reason I'm doing this. What I didn't expect is for it to become such a conversation. I also didn't sign up to be anyone's activist. And like that came with the scale of the book as well. Okay, she's an activist about Black British motherhood. Now, the reason why, because I'm just a really frank person, the reason why I don't take the tag as activist is people hate to see activists make money. They hate it. It's like you cannot be a true activist and be well off.
Yeah. And the picture isn't painted like you think of an activist and you don't think of that.
They have to be struggling in order for their activism to be authentic. I don't know why we're coded that way, but in the fallout of the conversations that happened around Black Lives Matter, you know, long after 2020, it was giving very much like, surely they can't be an activist or a poster child for bettering the Black community because they own 2 houses. Surely they can't because, you know, they're not signing on. Like it's really strange and really grotesque. So I quickly wanted to take myself out the chat because I'm like, I don't know, this designer bag is perhaps going to cheese you off because you see me as an activist, and an activist doing a fancy thing or having a nice holiday is going to turn you off. And I really wanted those 2 things to be separate. Like, if you find activism in the work, great, but I'm not an activist, because then I also think, a bit like just being on social media in general, there's a lot of ownership. There's a lot of entitlement. Well, why did she do that? She's for the people. Why are they doing that? They're for this. I don't want any part of that pressure.
You're sort of putting yourself out there. You're talking about these, you know, rightly so, important topics that haven't been discussed, haven't been highlighted, haven't been put into a book.
Yeah.
You're suddenly given this positioning.
Yeah.
You never really necessarily asked. You weren't doing it because you didn't want to become an activist.
No, God, no.
So stepping away from it, saying to yourself, I've written this book. I want to write others, but I don't want to be an activist.
Yeah.
How do you then make that decision? Is that quite scary to be like, oh, is this going to slightly veer me off what could be a really interesting road for me? Am I cutting more off than I can chew?
Do you know why it wasn't hard for me? Because I just had to understand that if I said yes to activism, it's because I liked the fame.
Yeah.
Not because I like doing the work.
Yeah.
And I don't think people can be that forthright with themselves. I'm like, what are you truly in this for? Don't let the dopamine of the likes and the applause get to you. In the real world, activism is thankless work. The people who are lobbying change and are fighting certain governments every day, you don't know the half of what they go through. So I just think I was really like, no. And I've also been the kind of person, and I think it shows in the decision I made with Closet Confessions, I don't care what people think success looks like from their perspective. If I ain't feeling a thing, it's not successful. The podcast could have had 100 million downloads. I'm still going to quit. I don't feel good, you know?
But you've got to understand, that's some serious, like, inner strength, belief.
The therapy's not been cheap. I'm not gonna lie.
To be able to, because the thing is, we do live in that world. It's very fame hungry. It's very money grabbing. It's very like, oh, I'm getting how much for that? Yeah. Oh, we'll just keep doing it, even if I don't really believe in it.
No.
But it's really interesting to hear your take, and you're like, if it's not serving me,
it's got
I
to
will
go.
step away.
It's got to go. I've seen the hamster wheel that comes with getting used to applause or getting used to a certain fee and you not truly being in alignment. And if there's one thing, you know, I don't care if people don't like me. What you're never going to do is call me a fake bitch.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't give a fuck about like, but fake?
Yeah.
Fake?
And
you can
go to sleep at night
yeah.
knowing that
you know,
yeah.
I played it to my rules.
Yeah.
And as soon as I could get myself out of a scenario why go 10 years trying to build a business and a career for yourself to then just get stuck at a juncture where you're doing things you don't want to do? That's why I quit a 9-to-5. You know, and I can appreciate that there are many columns of my career and life where people will be like, why did she leave at the height of this? Or why did she leave in the middle? Because it was my end and it was my low. I know you don't see it that way as the consumer, but I know when I'm like, you're no longer getting the best of me. You don't even know that as a consumer, and I could bluff you all the way home, but you're not even getting the best of me. I don't busy myself with stuff like that anymore.
I think I've fallen in love with you today. I don't know if it was the linguini. I don't know if it's just like, you know, the way that you live your life and the decisions you make. But I don't know. I've fallen in love in this bed.
And we're in the bed. I love it.
I think the last part, and this is the bit that I'm sort of need to bring myself into in this conversation in terms of this motherhood, and is something that there's a couple things that you have said when I was doing my research that I so resonate with. It's quite incredible. So there's a term of this beige image of motherhood,
God,
right?
Yeah.
So I obviously said in the intro, I am 9 months pregnant. Yeah. What you don't know is that I'm actually leaving this recording to go and have a baby in the next 24 hours.
I knew it! I fucking knew it!
In fact, to be honest, I didn't know it until 24 hours ago. I'm about to go and have a baby. And I wanted to continue the recording because I need to be in control of my life. 2, I needed I didn't want to. You
need a stabilizer. You're just going to sit and think.
Nothing's happening until this evening. Yeah. So I just needed to continue. And I also thought I couldn't think of a perfect guest to do this with. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I'm the last of this life.
Literally. This is it. You don't realise what you've come into today.
No,
she has no idea what she's walked into. So, okay. So I'm going to have a child in the next 24 hours.
The way you've already decided to start this journey lets me know you're going to be fine, because you have gone...
There's too many hormones. I'll start crying.
But you've gone to the very end trying to hold on to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think so often women are almost beaten into having to lie about the fact that, you know, it's all about the baby. It can't possibly be.
Thank you. I'm chucking my notes.
It can't possibly be, bro.
Yeah.
It's still not all about my kids. No offense. And you know who taught me that weirdly? My dad. My dad always used to say to me, and so maybe he had a sneaky suspicion he was going to die young, but he was always like, if my world, you know, if his world ends, that doesn't mean my world should stop spinning. Because he was like, actually, we don't occupy the same world. We are part of a universe with different planets spinning around each other. So my dad got the flu and it turned into pneumonia, and he died when he was 42.
Gosh.
Yeah. It was a brutal death as well. And it's just like, that just coded something in my brain to always be ready for when my kid turns around and goes, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your kid's gonna turn around and be like, do something else, mate. And you don't want to have coded your world around theirs so much that when they decide to go and do life on their own terms, you're just like, who am I? What do I do with myself? What do I like?
Who am I? Who am I? Who was I before? Who was I?
You've always got to keep a thread of that alive, so that by the time they're ready to fly the nest, you also want them out of the nest.
Yeah. I think though, so I'm exactly the same age as you. I'm 36, and I'll be complete, and I've been very open within like my inner circle. I never thought I wanted kids.
Same.
It was not something that I ever really...
You didn't
I
draw the
didn't
things.
crave it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was part of whatever my future was going to be. I'm a career woman. I'm independent.
Yeah.
And I'll say this openly. I'm selfish. Right?
No,
and I'm
we
not
are a vibe.
And I'm not just talking about it on the fact that like I'm not going to share a packet of crisps with you. It's I'm selfish about my life.
Yeah.
I'm selfish about my choices. I lead a lovely just life with my husband. If we want to go away, we go away. If we want to go out tonight for dinner, we go out for dinner.
Yeah.
So this decision is hands down, without a doubt, the biggest. And I know it's biggest for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest for me because I feel like now suddenly there is another being that has been brought into the mix. And it's not that I carry resentment for it. It's more the, how are you going to fit into what we have created? Absolutely. Because I don't want to fit into your life. You're just entering, you're just coming in, right? And I'm also, and please correct me, because I have a lot of conversations with mothers. Most of my friends have children, and a lot of them will sort of be like, okay, Hannah, yeah, sure. Talk to me in a year. Let's see how you're getting on. And I don't take offense to it, but they must look at me and think, you're so naive when you say, oh, what, you're taking a job on 6 weeks after you've given birth? Well, actually, hold on a second. I can take that job, and then I'll tell you why I can. Because I've created a career where I'm not in an office 9 to 5, and I respect mothers that do have to go back or for whatever reasons. I can dip in and out of my job.
Yeah.
If I need to go and do 2 hours here or there, and I want to do it, that I know that that's a privilege. And I will go and do that. Yes, I'm going to be tired for the next 18 years of my life. I get that. But also, that's not a reason for me to stop.
No. And also the way you've approached this is so beautiful, because in the mess and the slush, because remember I said to you, no major decisions before the kid is 2, but that dipping out after 6 weeks, it allows you to keep an eye on yourself, because you're going to lose sight of her. She's going to be in and out of focus. Like, there's going to be so much going on internally and externally. But then when you're out and you've put on that outfit or whatever, you're like, okay, I can see her. I might not get to her all the time, but at least she's still in my visions. You know what I mean? And honestly, I really don't like, I don't know if anyone did it to you, but I really don't like people who just oversell how hard motherhood's going to be. Or how hard. Let me tell you something. Yeah,
I'm shaking my head. For anyone that's not watching this, I'm shaking my head.
There's been some crock of shit bits. But this is, by and large, it's just like a walking parody. Like, I'm just like, I can't believe I get to experience this. It has been so much fun. It has been, I think, all the things I was able to tell you 5 minutes ago, where I'm like, no, this is how I'm coded and I won't be fake. My kids made that so. Because you think a watch is going to tell you the time. Watching them tells you the time. And they make it crystal clear about what I will and won't do. And also how you can and can't treat me. You know, because now I'm always like, well, if Esme brought that to you, well, you say fuck him. So come on, mum. Do you know what I mean? And my bestie always said, there are things that you are going to struggle to do as Candice that you are going to fly at being Esme and RJ's mum. And she's never been wrong. Whenever my back has been up against the wall and I think Candice don't have it, my God, Esme and RJ's mum has got it.
Right. I love that. I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like superhero mode, because it's like, oh no, based on my consideration for them also, this cannot fail, or I will not let you mug me off. Whereas when I was this sole entity, I don't know why. Maybe I would let you treat me like a fool. But with them in my rear view, it's not going to fly.
I think where I've been so shocked as I'm sort of about to enter this, life-changing moment was talking in 2024. I get that there are things that are still so backwards. We're still fucking dealing with the 1950s housewife bullshit. I was looking into things like, maternity payment or whatever, right? You tell me we're dealing with AI, we've been chatting this whole morning about social media, technology, and yet we live in a world where, as a self-employed woman, and I have been carving a career for over 12 years now, and I know I need to step away, and I have no financial backing whatsoever, unless I decided, and I know some people who have done this, who have gone into employment to then get pregnant, so they're covered for 8 months. You know, it's things like this that you don't get taught at school
at all.
I didn't know any of this until about 3-4 months ago. And I find these kinds of things that I've been uncovering incredibly scary, because there is going to be other women out there like me who, and by the way, you know, I'm young. I do consider myself young. But a lot of people would see me and have told me, you better get on with it, Hannah. You're 36.
God, tell me about
when are you going to start having kids?
Tell me about it.
I'm a geriatric pregnancy. Let's not get started on that. But, you know, what needs to be done? How does it get better? And why is it still wrong? Why is everything still so backwards?
No matter what they say, fundamentally, our government doesn't prioritise family and community. It just don't. Because if you did, you would find ways to make this easier to do. Our society at the heart is very individualistic and solely rooted in capitalism. And yes, of course, we can all gain from those things. But that means when we want to do the thing that typically for most people is just so biologically coded, the system is not in place to help support that. To the point that my best mate, she's a single mum. She moved up to Brum for a couple of years. And when I say she moved completely by herself with her daughter to the sticks. And it just got to a point where I was like, you need to come home now. And home is literally a house a 3-minute walk away from mine. Because I'm like, we need to figure out how we can start fostering communities as women that isn't dependent on a system that don't want us to win. Do you know what I mean? So it's like letting your girlfriends know what you need. Sometimes as time goes on, maybe moving closer to certain people. Because when you look at what is available for us, there's nothing. There's absolutely... How could it be that we're grafting at these careers for over a decade and there's no piggy bank to be like, I just want to be at home with my kid for a certain amount of time. Do you know what I mean? And I went back to work. I went to my first event after giving birth to RJ, which was a C-section at 5 weeks. And I remember going into the toilet and just having a little weep. I wasn't in that much pain, but I was still quite sore. And I was wearing like a binder to help support my incision. And it just felt insane. It felt insane. Even though there was a part of me that wanted to be out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going out tonight. Great. There was also a part that was like, but you also know that there's a part of you that's out because you need to be. You work in a space that can forget you so quickly. And when I had him, I wasn't where I am now. I feel like I could take a couple years off now and people will be grateful for it. But back then, I just didn't have that space and time. What would our society look like if women felt they had that space and time, that they could take that time off and rest their bodies and bond with their baby and come back into the market and everyone loves and supports them and there was still space for them? I feel like, and again, it goes back to social media and virality, it feels like that window is so tiny.
I didn't want to announce my pregnancy. And I don't have like a major following on social media, but I didn't want to announce it because I was scared that people were going to stop
working with
you.
Yeah, that's a real fear.
And I'm happy to speak about that out loud because I was scared that people were going to be like, oh well, we'll write her off for a year. I ain't fucking going anywhere for a year.
I hear that.
And a lot of people then message me being like, oh my God, so you must be due in 6 months. No, I announced, I think at 7 months.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm actually giving birth in 2 months. And they were like, wait, what? And I said, I have my reasons.
I love that for you. And like I said, I don't want it, but
it also made me a bit sad.
I felt I had to do that. Yeah. So, and like we said, AI tech, not a lot has changed. Not a lot has changed. No. Many women have been made to feel that the minute you decide to do family life, certain things are cut off from you, or your career and who you are is put on pause. One thing I do now, when my girlfriends have babies, no offense, I don't bring fuck all for the kids. You don't need shit, bruv. You've got
I've actually said that. Bring me
Do you know what I mean? Like, I just became a godmother and I took one of my best mates, like, a massive care package for her and some alcohol and some makeup. I was like, yes, girl. I was like, I'm sorry. Because, you know, yes, new life, we get it. But this woman has gone through the most life-changing thing where she just wants to feel like a little slice of herself. Do you know what I mean? So I'm all about really loving on the mum, like greeting the mum before the baby. Like, these are really, and you wouldn't believe how many new mums, how that can just shift a tiny thing in their brain where they're like, okay, I am supported. I have got this. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not going to lie, in 48 hours, you're going to feel like you've had your head pulled through your asshole. You're just...
I'm going to message you and actually just be like,
you're just
my head is inside in my arse.
You know, like someone's just pushed your head into your body and pushed it through your ass the other way. That's how you're going to feel. That's how the whole world is going to look. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But again, you'll think back to us recording this and you'll be like, oh no, I'm still me. She's still in there. And you will learn to see the wood from the trees. Yeah. Trust me. Trust me.
I also, and this is so cliche, but I do feel like every feeling is temporary, right?
Absolutely.
So we can sit there and say, okay, that newborn phase, you're in the trenches, like I don't know where the light is at the sun, but it happens.
It happens. And you look back and you're like, you literally just go one day, oh, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like there's no magic moment, but you just go, oh,
I'm there.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's no seamless way to kind of bring this back to the food in any way. But I would love to know, like, what has your relationship with food been like, especially with raising children?
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie, and you might have to flag something. I'm having to recognise that my relationship with food has been very borderline eating disorder.
Okay.
It's been very like, have I eaten too? Constantly thinking about it. And not just like, oh, I'm so excited to have that meal. Have I overeaten? Was that too much? Did you really need that? Me now trying to like divorce the overthinking of food and understanding its sustenance, but then leaving space for enjoyment. And I've often said to my therapist, I truly believe this is a thought process I'm going to have till the day I die.
When did that start, would you say?
Oh my gosh, my very early teens, no, maybe even when I'm like 10, 11, when like family members are actively being like, you're gaining too much weight, or like someone's walking up to you and squeezing your thigh or squeezing your arm and like being like, oh, you're filling out there. But also in the Black community, food being a love language, and me not being allowed to leave the table until the food is cleared, even though I've stopped being hungry 10 minutes ago. But also, you know, you can't be too skinny, but you also can't be too like.
How do you broach that subject with your daughter or daughters?
I don't, and that's the important thing. Okay. I don't.
Actually, and your son, to be fair. I mean,
one thing, and it's an unspoken rule. My kids' bodies are never up for discussion.
Yeah.
Not by me, not by anyone else. Esme had to go to the hospital recently. They wanted to weigh her. I said, "Are you out of your mind?" She was 9 at the time. I said, she ain't stepping on. She's never stepped on a scale. So for this to be her entry point to knowing what her weight is or thinking that has to be a consideration. And it's so funny. They really tried to push back on me. And I was like, we will just leave. She's not getting on. Like, also, you guys know how this thing can seed eating disorders, especially in young girls. Why would you... do you know what I mean? You give it a rest. We're not doing that. Also, I don't speak about how much is on their plate, how little is on their plate. I'm like, are you full now? Yeah, I'm full. Conversation
it's
over.
Done. Yeah.
It's so done. I've noticed that Esme, especially on half term, she typically don't get out of bed till midday anyway. So she'll have a late breakfast that sometimes means she only has 2 meals a day. I've kept an eye on it. It's nothing. It's just that she gets up late. Do you know what I mean? Midnight she'll have half a pack of Haribo. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, everything within its limits, but I just don't make it a conversation.
Yeah. But is there like sort of as the mother of the house, is there sort of a subconscious sort of thought process with you in terms of what you're cooking or what you're keeping in the house?
Absolutely. To the point that we just went through just too much of a takeout phase. And in my brain, I was like, right, I want 4 home cooked meals a week. And that's the agreement I had with myself, just so that, and what's so funny is every time a home cooked meal is put in front of them, they're like, yes, they're like, woohoo, like they genuinely enjoy it more. So I'm like, I have to lead on what is being presented before them. RJ, when I say, you know, when people say like a teenage boy is going to eat you out of house and home, they don't need to be teenage. A 6-year-old can manage that very well. He is like snackathon master. And so it's like, sure, you can have that chocolate, but maybe try the 2 satsumas first.
Fine.
And usually once we've hit that sugar point with the satsumas, he doesn't come back. Do you know what I mean? Like, what am I offering? What is in the fridge? What am I guiding them towards?
I think that's what it is the guiding.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the telling. It's the guiding.
And then I realised Esme really likes salad. I was like, yeah, get with the gang. So now RJ won't touch it, but I'll make her a fancy salad. Do you know what I mean? When I find that there's something quote unquote healthier that they enjoy, I double down on that, because it's just easier to get down their throats.
What are the family favourites?
Jollof rice, Nigerian only, obviously. Love a good jollof rice night. I'm a very protein-coded girly. I'm in the gym a lot, so there's that. But I'm a lobster, king prawn, oysters, steak. Yes! Like, love a surf and turf me. Like, I'm going to be there all day. Everyone has a sweet tooth. Everyone to a different regard. My husband really likes when I bake. RJ's like a Haribo fiend. Esme likes chocolate. So I like everyone to have a bit of that. But typically, everyone is in agreement over Nigerian food. Which was a big deal for me, because coming up, I didn't have access to West African friends. Like, I didn't have So meeting my husband and then that being my entry point to Nigerian food, massive. And watching the kids just like clap off things with Scotch bonnet and not break a sweat. Do you know what,
actually, your children's like mixed heritage is actually my dream.
It's goals.
No, it's like, it's actually, I'm like edging on a little bit of jealousy here.
Because they're like, yeah, beef patty, jollof. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, jollof and stew. Like, it's just a great mix.
Have you made jollof for your husband's family?
Never. They've never seen me pick up a pot.
Too much pressure.
And do you know what is? I'm just not the cook of the house. He is like, he is a bit like my I feel like I've just married my granddad. He is homemaker coded. He went to South Africa for a week just gone, and I was like, so where does the detergent go in the washer bit? So I'm like sending him photos like, where do I put it? I don't know, nothing. Oh, where's the steamer bit for that? I don't know what's going on in that side of the house. I'm very much like go out, hunt, gather, coded.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, I must be at every PTA meeting. I must be in the WhatsApp chat.
I love this dynamic.
He knows what day each kid needs the PE kit.
Yeah. Okay. You got a good one there. Actually, you got a good one. I like this. When you do find yourself out and about, where's some of your favourite restaurants?
Oh, gosh, anything Italian. Like, there's nowhere, like, I'm not, no, this is a lie. So I recently found one called Lavo, which is attached to... Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, they be killing me every time. I love a Lavo. The restaurant at the Albright Private Members Club. Yes. They do great offerings. I love their food. Do you know what? I know it's a bit naff, but I am a Wosley lover for a certain vibe.
I don't think it's naff.
Oh, good.
No.
Because some people are just a bit like...
No, I've been there a few times over the years, and I've always ordered the same thing. Yeah. I have a chicken schnitzel, which sounds a bit boring, but it's very well done.
Yeah, it's so well.
Yeah.
And also, people won't believe this, but I only went to Hakkasan like a month ago.
What did you think?
Damn, that food is good. God damn, like with that big G, I was like, no, because I love like Thai Asian based cuisine. It's a tie between that and Italian for me as like my major comfort food. But I'm also not precious. I'll rock up to anywhere. Like when I'm in New York, I specifically look for like a mum and pop run shop or like a third generation West Indian thing in Harlem. Like I'm not with the fancy pants. And even if it is fancy pants, I'm just not with the judgment.
Yeah. No, you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
As back to what we were talking about, in Jamaica, where's been your best meal?
And you're sitting
Some
on
shack
a trunk,
roadside.
a tree trunk.
Don't take me to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like I want the real. I want the real deal. I want the real love.
Exactly.
You know. Okay. I finished my chats with a few quick fire questions.
Let's go.
Okay. What's the craziest food you've ever eaten?
What is the craziest? Snails, I guess snails, or maybe an anus of something. I just know I've been
Just
about.
an anus. We got cancelled before we begun.
I feel like someone's made. I feel like
Where have you eaten an anus?
No, I don't. And not human ones. No offense, because I'm not judging. But I feel like I'll go through my food Rolodex and I'll be like, I'm sure you've eaten zebra bum or something. Like
The trigger warnings on this episode are going to be out of control at this point. Jesus. Okay. Okay, next. What's been your most memorable meal?
My most memorable meal. One time when I was 10, my dad rented out the entire cinema just for us to watch Space Jam. I cannot conceive just how mind-blowing that is. So we've watched Space Jam and then he's taken me to my favourite restaurant at the time called Fatty Arbuckles. I don't even know Fatty, but it was like an American diner experience. And it's just, I don't even know if it was it's just so code. It's like a core memory.
Oh, I love that.
It was just me and him in the cinema.
What?
And I was like, this movie's just come out, Dad. Like, why are we... He was like, I rented out the whole cinema.
Oh my God, I love it.
That is just like
insane. That is epic. That is like every child's
dream.
Right?
Like to just be like, whoop, whoop. Like, it was crazy.
Okay, I always ask 2 questions that are specifically directed to the guest of the episode. Okay. Best baby weaning tip?
I don't know, mate. I had black kids, so it was just... It was solids at 1 week. Like,
they were on the jollof.
RJ was 10 pounds 2 ounces at birth, mate. When I walked to theatre, the nurses were livid. They were like, "Why did they not get you a wheelchair?"
Gosh.
Like, I just looked incredibly unstable.
Okay.
Brought RJ home. I'm like, I'm gonna exclusively breastfeed because my sickness with Esme meant I couldn't do that. 2 days in, that boy looked at me like, I think the fuck not, babe. You better pad that shit up with the SMA. So I did what I had to do. So by 3 months, he's giving us Aggie vibes. I said, oh, is it? Is it mashed potato time? And we just... Because you want your babies to sleep. This is another thing. I know you didn't ask yet, but more time your kid ain't sleeping because they're fucking hungry.
Thank you.
They're hungry. And like when the nurse came round and was like, oh, you should only be giving him 2 ounces.
No.
I was like, what directory are you reading these instructions from? Sorry.
I'm done. I feel like there's another book here, which is kind of like the sort of like your baby tips.
Do what you feel is right.
Oh God, yes.
Do what you feel is right.
I know. Stop reading that beige mama book that you bought from wherever. Anyway, the first thing you ate post-birth.
The first thing I ate post-birth, I think it was a bottle of champagne. Because RJ was born on my 30th birthday.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
And I know people are like, oh, alcohol, and he lived, man. He lived. Like, I needed a little something. So, yeah, I think it was actually a bit of a... Yeah.
You don't think I'm... This weekend, please. I'm making the margaritas.
What's so funny? In my day, when a kid had teething issues, my nan just used to rub rum.
So did my mum.
So
did my mum.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm like, when did we get so precious? And we all survived.
My favourite snack of all time is a packet of crisps.
Oh.
What is your favourite flavour of crisps and why?
Oh my God, Monster Munch pickled onion. No, are you buzzing? Is it yours? No, we're so coded, guys.
No, I can't. I'm literally going to start crying. This is I'm
And
like,
you can see that wasn't like...
I'm known for the pickled onion
No,
monster.
that is my... That... Who the kids know when that pack of 6 comes in that house, none of it's for you, bro. No. And there's something about that brand. It has to be Monster Munch.
They get stuck in your teeth,
Oh,
in the
and they're
pores
just
of your
so
skin.
messy. Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I love you. Okay. I'm sweating. I'm going into labour. I don't even know what's happening at this point. Okay. What food sums up happiness for you?
Pasta.
Yes.
Mounds of pasta with parmesan.
Oh, God,
That
yes.
is like big, all my dreams fulfilled.
Absolutely. I have nothing to say back to that. Final question. Live to eat or eat to live?
This is going to sound weird, but I have to be honest. I said I'm not a fake bitch. I'm in my eat to live era.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to get some specific gains in the gym.
I've been following your journey.
Yeah, so my
Listen.
PT's like, you've got to up the protein.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking about it in a different way. I've just come out of my live to eat era though.
Okay.
Loved that. But for what I'm trying to do, eat to live.
I think it's okay at times in life to flip between the two. You know,
yeah.
I'm obviously have been in a bit of a sort of live to eat.
Yeah.
And, you know, things may change for,
This is what I'm
it's
saying.
okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's still an appreciation.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's still a love.
And I'm still gonna choose foods that I enjoy.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna look, I just had linguine for breakfast. Do you know what I mean?
That's, as I said, that's where I fell in love. It was literally over the linguine. I mean, I don't even know how to sum up this episode. It's been so beautiful to sit down with you. I wish there were more people like you out there. Keep fucking questioning and pushing the status quo on everything that you do. I wish you the best. This is, I hope, the beginning of a friendship.
Yeah.
And thank you for being my final guest before my life changes.
I don't even have anything to say after that. This has been amazing. Thank you for having me.
We love her. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. If you love what you hear, please subscribe and review. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram @CrazySexyFood. Until next time, bye.